that was from yesterday, and it was just such an incredible joy and honor to speak with Joanna. She's such an elder in our community, and I'm so glad she also helped to introduce Rupert Read, who's calling in just now from the UK. And Rupert is a really well-known and prominent figure in the climate activist movement in the UK, having been very fundamental in the guidance and support and emergence of Extinction Rebellion that came out of the UK, and spokesperson and within the Green Party, which is run by a wonderful group of leaders, and also just an academic and philosopher, and have thought so deeply and so intimately and profoundly about our times. And Rupert, thank you so much for joining us. And particularly was struck by your vision of going beyond business as usual, but actually translating that from the personal to the collective, and looking at what you call activating the moderate flank, those who are, high percentages now of around the world. More people than ever before know that we're in a cataclysmic dynamic, and yet there's still a sort of stuckness and trance-like bubble, like we're under a spell. To break that spell, to mobilize en masse, particularly as you have written about, when we know that COP26 leaders will inevitably fail us once again after years of as Greta Thunberg talks about, the blah, blah, blah kind of response. We'll blah, 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 no more blah, blah, blah. So, please share with us where you're at, what your thinking is, the Green Can movement that you're thinking about in the UK, and how anything you can share will be so welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Tanissa. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Great. It's a real honor to be with you all here today. I want to start out by honoring my teacher, Joanna Macy, the great Dharma teacher and peaceful eco-warrior. If there is wisdom in what I'm about to offer, then the headwaters of that, the spring, the fountain from which it first crystallized, was her teaching. I want to start from this idea, this amazing revolutionary idea that everything is welcome, that we aim to achieve a kind of complete acceptance of the present moment. And I think some of us are kind of quite good, maybe some of the time at least, at understanding that, taking that in, practicing that in our personal lives. But what does it mean if it's applied at the macro level as well? What does it mean if it's applied to the world? And there it starts to look a lot more difficult, yeah? What does it mean to accept as it is the state of the world as a whole right now? Does that mean that we have to acquiesce in it? Does that mean that we have to say, oh, well, then we just kind of allow it to go on as it is and we kind of withdraw from it into a personal realm? So I think it doesn't mean that at all. And if there's anything I have to add to Joanna Macy's magnificent teaching, it's to bring out this, which I think is already present in that teaching, but to bring it out and perhaps state it even more clearly. If we're accepting the world as it is right now, then that includes that we accept the way that we feel and think about the way the world is right now. And that means that we have to accept all of the feelings of anger and grief and horror and terror and sadness that go along with living right now. We have to accept all of those things as just as real as a rainforest standing or a rainforest falling. And those emotions, that orientation that we have towards the world, that is part of what it is to be alive right now. That's part of what it is to be sane right now. There's something missing in you if you don't miss things that used to be in the world, for example. Yeah, that's what grief is. That's what ecological grief is. So if we embrace all of that, if we let those emotions move us, if we let the motion in our emotions be real, then accepting the present moment as it is across the whole world, means also accepting that we are moved to move that world. Yeah. The great sorrow, as I sometimes call it, the great sorrow is that we have already lost a great deal, and there is much that is already impossible to change. It is too late to prevent dangerous climate change. It is here, it is upon us. It is too late to prevent the extinction of the animals that have gone extinct. It is too late to prevent the killing of 2 billion animals in the wildfires in Australia, for example, that took place not that long ago. And these events are consuming more and more of the world with greater rapidity now. When we accept the way that the world is, we accept all of those things, and we accept that too lateness. We don't fantasize that we can miracle everything into being okay. Everything is not okay, and everything is not going to be okay. That's part of what it is to really accept the way that the world is right now. Part of what it is to accept the way the world is right now is to accept that the way that the world is right now is not okay. Do you see? If I have any eco-spiritual wisdom, this is where it resides. So, what to do? Yeah, that's what everybody wants to know now. What to do? What ought we to do about this? Those of us who are awake or even partly awake, what are we to do? And all of you know what the first thing is that we need to do. The first thing is that we need to do, not the last thing, but very definitely the first thing, is stuff like this. And that means the first thing that we need to do is really pause, really contemplate, as my philosopher colleague Bayo Kamalafi says, the times are urgent, let us slow down. So we pause, we reflect, we take all this in, we really face the way that the world is, and we really face who we are in the face of the way that the world is. We really allow ourselves to feel and sense all of these things, including our desire to suppress them, including our wish that we hadn't been born at this time. We accept all of these things. And when we really accept all of these things, then we're accepting how magnificent it is for us to be alive at this time, provided we are willing to be moved by all of this and to shed those tears and then to do stuff. So what ought we to do? Well, let me give a couple of possible examples. So later this month, I'm going to be in court for criminal damage. I damaged a building where a climate change denialist think tank is located. So this is me and colleagues from Extinction Rebellion being in court for that. And that's the thing you can do. And if you feel moved to do that, and if you feel able to do that, and if you're open to the kinds of things that we're saying here today, that is fantastic. If you're not able to do that, there are other things you can do. In exactly a month's time, the COP will be starting, the COP in Glasgow, in my country, across the pond. And this is possibly the most important COP there has ever been. The COP in Paris in 2015, of course, was hugely important. But this one is the one which is supposed to make good on the promises that were made and have mostly so far been broken in Paris. And this COP coincides with the post-COVID reset, which is going to determine the shape of the 2020s. And the 2020s, as Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, has said very clearly, are going to determine the shape of the century. What we do now is of incalculable importance. Any way that we can influence the COP and what happens there could be of great importance. But don't expect that the COP is going to save us. They're not going to save us. They are certainly going to fail us. Our so-called leaders are most definitely going to fail us. They're going to fail us. They're going to fail our children. They're going to fail non-human animals. The live issue is whether they fail us merely badly or catastrophically. That's a big difference. Any way that anyone listening to this today can influence that, that's important. Now, you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but I'm in California. What can I do in relation to what's in Glasgow? But hey, look, we're talking right now across the globe. It's possible for anyone in this world now to potentially have some influence on anywhere else in this world. And what I would say to you also is, wherever you are, do something that is not just virtual, do something physical to mark this unbelievably historic moment of this COP26. And especially to mark the end of it. The end of it will be the moment when it becomes clearer to a lot of the world that they are failing us, that there is no cavalry, that there are no adults in that room. And we need to be out there on the streets to mark that occasion. We need to be out there in capital cities. We need to be out there in state capitals. Do something on or around November the 12th to mark this moment, this decisive moment where our leaders are going to fail us, either badly or catastrophically. What else? What else can we do? Hard times are coming. It's too late to prevent the climate emergency. It is here. So another set of things that we have to do, we have to adapt. We have to be ready to adapt to the climate damage that is here and the worst climate damage that is coming. And the way that we adapt will be of critical importance, once again, to our own lives, to the lives of our children, to the lives of our grandchildren. Do we adapt in the kind of way that, for example, the Australian government are saying we should adapt, which is basically things like more air conditioners, higher seawalls, stronger flood defenses? If that's the only way we choose to adapt, we're really making ourselves more brittle and setting ourselves up for a greater fall. Or do we adapt deeply? And do we adapt transformatively? Deep adaptation is adaptation which is open to the possibility, the reality, that our civilization, this civilization as we know it, may collapse within the lifetimes of many of us. That is a kind of preparation that is now unavoidable. Transformative adaptation, closely allied, but holds out a little bit more hope for the possibility that we may yet be able to prevent such collapse. The way we choose to adapt may yet determine whether or not we collapse. Because if we choose to adapt, as I say, in a way that is shallow, defensive, then that hastens our collapse. If we choose to adapt in a way that is intelligent, that is wise, that works with nature rather than against nature, that binds us into the kind of collective, into the kind of society we actually need for the future, that makes our communities more resilient, that makes our food systems more resilient. If we choose to adapt transformatively, then we may yet head off collapse. So, the many things you can do to build and model a more resilient, a transformed community and way of life, this is a crucial set of things that you can do starting right now, because this need to adapt is here, just as dangerous climate change is here right now. To generalize from these little examples, I do, in a way, want to ask a lot of you. The way I sometimes put this to people is, it's about your money or your life. Some of you may be people who are unable, for whatever reason, to be arrested, unable to make big changes in your own life, but you may have money. If you're one of those people, if you're somebody who is in the top 10%, the top 5%, the top 1%, and believe me, most of you are on a global scale, and some of you may be even within, say, the United States, then there are amazing things you can do with your money. I'm not talking about giving $10 a month to Planned Parenthood or $50 a month to some good cause. I'm talking about real money. I'm talking about thousands upon thousands of dollars. I'm talking about a significant percentage of your income or your wealth. If you have some real money, think about how you can use it now to make a real difference to, say, the COP, or say, the way that we adapt. And if you don't, well, then it's just redoubled. Think about your life. Think about what you're going to do with the rest of your life, with this one wild and precious life. I mean, in your work. I mean, in your role as part of a community. I mean, in your capacity as a parent who cares so deeply about your children and who understands that it is not possible for us anymore to succeed in taking care of our children if we only take care narrowly of our own children. That the only way now we get to protect our children is by doing big things together, to adapt, to mitigate, to prevent, to transform. I said a moment ago that I am asking these things of you, but actually it's not me who's asking them of you. It's your children. It's your children's children. It's the animals at risk of extinction. It's the earth itself. It's you. You are asking this of you because your emotions, your yearnings, when you allow them to be real, when you allow them to move you, that's who you really are. You know that you want to do this stuff that I'm saying. Your very being yearns to do it. So of course it's no sacrifice. How could it be a sacrifice if it's what you most yearn to do? And remember, this isn't just about you alone. You're not alone. We only get to do this if we do it together. My teacher Thich Nhat Hanh has said, maybe the next Buddha will be a Sangha. I would say maybe the next Buddha will be this Sangha. And by this, I mean whoever chooses to express their deepest being by joining this first person plural, this we, this us, that can even yet transform our common future so much for the better. If you can do it by being arrested, that's great, get arrested. If you can do it by putting your money to good use, that's great, do it in that way. If you can do it by transforming, and I mean transforming, your workplace, do it that way. If you can do it by participating in transforming your community, helping to make it resilient, being a greater example, being prefigurative, being regenerative, do it that way. Find your way of being who you really are at this most incredible time to be alive. Thank you.